What is up, everybody? It is your boy, and in case you couldn't tell by the title, I know I'm a little late to the party, but I'm going to be talking about the tragedy that happened almost a week ago at the Astroworld Festival, Travis Scott concert. So, for those of you that don't know, this event was organized very poorly, and it was overcrowded. Too many people were allowed in, and many people snuck in. So everything was incredibly cramped. It was to a point where people were literally getting crushed between each other, like breaking things, passing out, and stuff like that. And people died. I believe it was 8 people who died. And apparently there was even somebody in the crowd going around with a syringe that had drugs in it, was injecting it into random people. But it's just an awful thing that happened, and I wanted to talk about it because there are lots of arguments on the internet going around about who's at fault and how much certain people are at fault, and I'm gonna play both sides a little bit and bring up like what I believe are valid points for each argument, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. I'm kind of on the neutral side of everything though. So the main thing that people are arguing about is it Travis Scott's fault because he didn't stop the concert? And again, since I'm neutral, my answer is definitely yes and no. And there are plenty of arguments against it. Obviously, if he understood what was going on, he definitely should have stopped the show. If he didn't understand what's going on, though, that's the thing that people aren't understanding. Then he wouldn't have stopped the show. The biggest thing is there was no way for Travis Scott to understand the severity of the situation. He didn't understand that it was so overcrowded that people were dying of asphyxiation from just being there, just standing there. People were getting squished. And I don't think he understood that. Well, I think it's very safe to say he didn't understand that people were dying, because I think in anyone's right mind they would stop the show then. But it was crazy. There's this one video clip that's going all over the place where he's has the mic to his face and he's looking at a guy unconscious, and people are like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? However, there are other clips, one that I saw on Instagram actually, where this guy that he's looking at, he stops in the middle of singing to get the only guy at the time that he's seeing unconscious or injured. He has him escorted out. He has his unconscious body escorted out by security. Now that's one defense that I have for Travis Scott. What he did see, at least from what I've seen so far, I definitely haven't seen everything that's been released about this. I've seen most of it though. But from what I've seen, this one time where he saw somebody injured, he definitely had it taken care of as much as he could have. People are saying that he should have stopped the show, and people are screaming "stop the show" in the crowd, and other people are defending how could he have heard them. And on that side of it, I definitely agree with the latter. He would not have been able to hear them if he was performing with loud music and singing loudly. So people chanting "stop the show" to him would not do anything, because he would not hear them. As long as it wasn't the entire venue, which it wasn't, it was just small sections of it, he would not have heard them. So a big thing about this is other people of the event that were asked to stop the show that directly heard it and responded with no's, like the one lady who climbed up a tower to tell, I believe it was a cameraman, what was happening and that he should try to get the show stopped, and he said like something along the lines of like, no, now get down before I push you off, or some crazy shit like that. And one thing that definitely did not help Travis Scott's case was the video that he released onto Instagram. I won't call it an apology video because he didn't brand it as an apology video. It was more of just a response. And it's definitely not an apology video because he did not apologize. Not even for the parts that he was at fault for. However, the biggest point that he brought up is that he didn't understand how bad the situation was. He saw one person knocked out, and when you think about it, this is a Travis Scott concert. People are moshing on the floor of this what's it called, of this venue, because that's just what you do at concerts like that. Like they're running around, they're trucking people, they're throwing hands just because they want to throw hands. That's what happens. It's a crazy phenomenon, a mosh pit, but that's just what happens. And he sees somebody severely injured and knocked out, he gets it taken care of. He didn't understand and didn't see all the other people that were dying. Now, some people are saying, well, if you're on a stage, you could see the crowd, you could see the audience. And I've been on a stage before too. You can definitely see individual people in the crowd and what's happening, or at least the gist of it. However, again, this place was so overcrowded. It was probably so hard for him to tell where one person started and another one ended. Like, it was that bad. People were on top of each other. You ever see the pictures of, like, beaches in China during the summertime where you can't even see ground and it's just people on top of people? It was like that. It was bad. And the saddest parts about it are obviously the lives lost, especially how young they were. I think the oldest one was only like 27 and the youngest was 14. There was some lady who was left brain dead, a 9-year-old left in a coma who's not expected to make a full recovery. It is awful. And on the note of, like, the younger kids, like the 14-year-old who passed away or the 9-year-old who's in a coma, people are saying, well, parents shouldn't be letting their kids go to a Travis Scott concert, 14-year-olds and 9-year-olds. And to that, I have to say, Travis Scott, especially last year, was a big social media icon because he had the whole Fortnite thing and the McDonald's thing. So there were probably at least 2 or 3 like 14-ish, maybe 12 or 13-year-old kids that were like, oh, I like Travis Scott music. I started listening to him when he was in Fortnite. And they went there because that part of him was marketed towards that age. Although the concert in and of itself wasn't. The event, though, was a big mistake on the event organizers, and I'll explain what I mean by that. It was, in a way, marketed towards children, and this is because it's called Astroworld Fest. Big part of Travis Scott's brand is Astroworld. Now, for those of you that don't know, Astroworld is the name of an old amusement park in Texas that Travis Scott used to go to as a kid, and it was like a big part of his childhood. So, to pay respect to it almost, he had like amusement park like rides for children. Hence, a Travis Scott fan possibly bringing their 9-year-old to go on like fun rides and stuff. So that was not a good call when you have what you know is going to end up being an intense mosh pit like concert with rides marketed towards kids. And I think that is definitely also Travis Scott's fault, because although the event organizers definitely put that part together, I wouldn't be surprised, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I wouldn't be surprised that the idea of having the rides there was Travis Scott's. So that was, if so, which is likely, that is not a great decision by him, because, like, you know how your concerts go if you're an artist, and he would know that. So that was a very bad call on his part. But I feel like the people putting the main focus on Travis Scott and that it's entirely his fault is not a good point, because I feel like him not stopping the show, it definitely could have and possibly did lead to more injuries. However, I don't believe it led to more deaths, and all I think it did on that bad decision was it put the conditions for it to be possible for there to be more injuries and more death. It increased the risk of it. Now, does that make it any of a better decision? No, because it could have caused more death and more injury. But I feel like him not stopping the show, the only issue that it actually caused at the event was the difficulty to help the people that were already injured, unconscious, or dead. For example, to get that guy that I was talking about in that video out, the security had to lift them above their heads and crowd surf him out, which is ridiculous. There were ambulances coming and people would climb on top of the ambulances. Like, people were going insane. And another really big point that I don't see too many people bringing up is, this is Travis Scott. The chance that during his performance he was under some kind of influence and on some kind of substance is pretty high. So with that, I'm not promoting the use of these substances. However, I feel like that definitely could have impaired his judgment and maybe even his vision or any of his senses, because if he was under some kind of influence, at least most of what he was doing would not have been what he was doing if he was sober. So let's say, for example, he did, like, firsthand, like, eye to eye witness somebody, like, getting knocked out, but he was under the influence. He would maybe even ignore it because he doesn't understand, because he's under the influence of some kind of, like, alcohol or drug or something. But that I don't see a lot of people bringing up, which is crazy because it's Travis Scott. I feel like there is a pretty solid chance that he was some kind of drunk or high during the performance, which definitely not a good idea, but also wouldn't make it his fault for not stopping the show. And another, I've been saving this one. One of the biggest things, I know my segues are pretty dog shit for this video, but one of the biggest things is this document that got released. Now I'm not sure if it's been confirmed real or not, but it showed that out of everybody who helped with the event, only 2 people had the authority to stop the show, and Travis was not one of them. So there is a chance that Travis Scott was not allowed to stop the show. Now, again, I am still on the neutral side here. I do think he should have stopped the show, and I do think that would have very likely caused less injury and would have made it easier for paramedics to assist and help the people that were injured already or knocked out or unconscious or any of that stuff. And he should have stopped the show. But the chance that he wasn't allowed to, because this is a contractual thing, so knowing this, there's a chance that if he stopped the show, he could have been fined millions of dollars by the event organizers. There's a big chance of that. And it's happening to him anyway, and I feel like he probably knew after the fact that this was going to happen. But now, obviously, lawsuits are coming into play. And I feel like more of them should be directed at the event organizers than they are, and too many of them are directed at Travis directly. Now, I've said this before, Travis is definitely partially at fault, but it is far more the fault of the event organizers. They let a guy sneak in to prick security guards with needles to get in with what could have possibly been a deadly drug. They allowed too many people in. The security wasn't good enough to keep people from sneaking in. The place was overcrowded. People were getting crushed between each other. And I believe that is primarily the event organizer's fault. Again, Travis not stopping the concert, bad call, but we don't know if he was able to. Because let's say, for example, this video that I was talking about, where he's looking at the unconscious guy and pausing himself singing 90210 to tell security to help get the guy out. From his eyes, if this contractual thing is true and it would cost him millions of dollars to end the show, which is possible and likely, he sees one unconscious guy. His mindset is probably something bad could be happening, but I doubt it because this is a Travis Scott concert and people get knocked out because of the mosh pits. So he probably thinks that this is just a casual concert knockout that surprisingly happens a lot, and he doesn't think, which reasonably so in my opinion, he doesn't think that one person getting knocked out from what could be a normal occurrence is worth stopping the show and losing all of that money that it would cost him. And I understand that standpoint. Now, there are some people saying that there were multiple occasions where he was seeing people on the ground, and other times he would just like stare at them and keep singing. Now, I don't know about that. I haven't seen these. I'm not saying they're not true, but in summary, because I've been going on for way too fucking long about this, Travis Scott should have stopped the show, and the event organizers are way more at fault than him. I feel like it's ridiculous that too many of the lawsuits are coming at him. There are even lawsuits going towards Drake because he performed at the show, which I think is ridiculous. But I feel like Travis Scott is getting too punished for this. Again, although what he did was wrong, there are many reasons as to why he didn't stop the show. I'm not saying it's all at once. I'm saying that there are many different reasons individually that would be that could be the reasons, and the chances of at least one of them being true are pretty solid. So I don't think he's as much at fault as he's being like held accountable for, because again, stopping the show, you never know if that could have just made things worse. If he said, let's stop the show, people are dying, people are passing out, people are getting their ribs broken and stuff, that could have just caused chaos. Like, what if people just started like freaking out, rushing out? It would have just been more dead people, more trampled people, more crushed people. And the performance going on wasn't in and of itself what was hurting people, because mosh pits couldn't really happen because nobody could really even move. So people weren't like throwing hands or anything like usual. At least I wouldn't imagine, because there wasn't really room to do so. But it wasn't that people were jumping around and rocking to the Travis Scott music that was getting people hurt. It was them just being there. So if the show stopped, people were just standing there, people would still be squished against each other, hard to breathe. I feel like that's another big part of it. There's a solid chance that Travis stopping the show either would have done nothing or made things worse. And I don't think that would have been worth it. Because if he stopped the show and just caused, like, hysteria among everybody, that could have caused... That, honestly, if that's what happened and people started panicking, that would have caused more deaths. I can almost guarantee that multiple people would get trampled if that happened. Now, I don't know if that's how people would react, but since there's a chance, I don't think that it was worth it. Now, it might sound like I'm defending Travis Scott way more than you'd think I should if I'm saying that I'm neutral on it, but I do still think, overall, he should have stopped it, but I go back and forth, because again, from what I just said, I'm not sure if he should have. It would have been a smart decision and a reasonable one, and I would have understand why he would have made that decision, but for the risk of more people getting injured or killed, I don't think stopping the show was the play. I think maybe halting it and not explaining what was happening and saying, there's something going on, we need to pause the show, just temporarily, I think that might have been smarter. But even then, Travis Scott fans, well, I'm a Travis Scott fan, but any super fan of an artist, if they say, we gotta stop the show for a minute or something like that, they could get angry, they could start rioting, or like being like, start the show, start like chanting and stuff, and it wouldn't have solved anything either. So the problem with the decision of whether or not to start or continue the show, again, if he was like not having a lapse in judgment and not under the influence this is, I think that decision is heavily dependent on how the crowd reacts, which nobody could predict how the crowd would react to that. So I honestly don't know what was the right decision. I don't think there was an easy way out of this either way. I think the tragedy, I think, was inevitable once the venue was filled. Either the show would continue and what happened happens, or the show gets canceled, people panic, or the show gets canceled, people get angry and riot. All three of those scenarios, people still die and get hurt. The only way that it would have gone well is if he stopped the show and people were reasonable about it, which I don't think is that likely. I don't know if you agree with that, but I don't think that would have been a likely outcome of Travis stopping the concert. So, I said in summary like 5 minutes ago, but to actually summarize what I said, Travis is at fault, at least slightly, because the marketing it partially towards children. That's also the event organizer's fault, though, marketing it partially towards children while knowing how Travis Scott concerts go. It's the event organizer's fault for how they let people in, how they were unable to prevent people from sneaking in, how they're unable to prevent somebody with what could have been a lethal drug from getting in. And I just entirely believe it's the event organizer's fault. And only partially Travis's for the few things that I mentioned, like event organizers or people or higher ups of the event being asked to stop the show and them saying no, them saying, the cameraman saying, I'll throw you off this tower if you don't get down, shit like that. I think it is far more at the event organizer's fault than at Travis's fault. And if you plan on suing somebody, sue the event organizers, please. Thank you. If you are part of one of the families affected and you happen to be watching this video, you got to sue the event organizers. Even if you think it's incredibly at Travis Scott's fault, no matter which way you cut it up, it's far more the fault of the event organizers by a lot, especially when it comes to the chance that Travis Scott would not have been allowed to stop the concert. That's all I really had to say about it. Rest in peace to the people lost. I'm sending out my thoughts, prayers, and condolences to the families affected and the people affected by it. Everybody injured, everybody killed, all that awful shit that happened. And let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know how you feel about it, who you think is more at fault and why. Let me know in the comments, because I'm really open to have my opinion changed. I like having conversations about this kind of stuff because it's like real world problems that are happening now. So I like knowing how other people feel about it and maybe seeing if my original mindset's not right on something. So let me know how you feel about this, and I'll see you guys in the next videos. Deuces.